quick disclaimer, our episodes touch on a lot of adult themes that we want to put out there. So it contains a lot of adult language, adult themes, like I said, which include child abuse, child endangerment, assault of many various forms, and the such that can be very difficult and triggering for a lot of people. So please listen or watch with discretion.
For those of you listening to the audio only, all of our videos will be linked in the description so that you guys can watch them. Hey y'all, and welcome back to Justice For. We're your hosts. I'm Jackie.
And I'm Sam.
Today's episode is going to be a little different because I'm going to be telling you and Sam all about Suzanne Morphew, a wife and mother from Colorado who went missing on Mother's Day 2020 while out for a bike ride. This case quickly became national news when the circumstances around her disappearance came out. Now, this case is one I loosely followed in the beginning until some really crazy stuff started to come out as time went on. This is still an active investigation, as this case has just recently heated back up with the discovery of her body this past September. Sam, you haven't really followed along with this case, even though it happened not too far from us, right?
Yes, like I know about it, but I never followed it.
Okay.
I hear it in the news.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we have some rough parameters.
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel in order to truly give a feel for how weird this case really is, I need to give you some background info on Suzanne and how it got to that fateful day in May of 2020. Suzanne Morphew was born in Alexandria, Indiana. She had an older sister, Melinda, and two brothers, Andrew and David. Faith played a significant role in Suzanne's life, and she met her future husband, Barry, while they were in high school. After graduating high school, Barry was drafted by the Toronto Blue Jays in 1986. However, his baseball career abruptly ended after he sustained an injury during a game. With baseball no longer an option, Barry enrolled at Purdue University, where Suzanne was attending and studying elementary school education, and Barry focused on horticulture production. Do you have a question?
He did not play with Troy Tulowitzki if it was 1986. Poor Troy. I mean, maybe good Troy, but also Troy.
Are you going to be okay?
I'm fine.
Okay. When Suzanne was 20, she faced a life-changing diagnosis. Doctors revealed that she had cancer. The news came as a shock to both Suzanne and Barry, even though they were young, and it would have been really easy for Barry to just dip out and not deal with such a heavy illness at a young age. He stayed by Suzanne's side. And this just really solidified his spot in Suzanne's family by just standing by her and being committed to this.
Do you know what kind of cancer she had?
She had lymphoma.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. As Suzanne recovered from her battle with cancer, she decided to pursue her passion for teaching and began a career as an educator. Meanwhile, Barry started his own landscaping business. Barry was not only passionate about landscaping, but he also loved hunting. He spent countless hours exploring the great outdoors. One of Barry's favorite pastimes was trapping animals. The Morphew home had numerous deer heads proudly displayed on the walls. Suzanne and Barry had two daughters, Mallory and Macy. Suzanne had feared she would never be able to have kids after her cancer treatments, so she decided to step away from being a teacher and became a stay-at-home mom.
Okay.
Being a mother was a role that Suzanne absolutely loved and spent every moment with her children. When Mallory, Suzanne and Barry's oldest daughter, received a scholarship to Western State University in Colorado, Suzanne and Barry considered relocating. They thought it could be a fresh start for them as their marriage was getting rocky. They decided on Salida, Colorado. It was perfect for Barry's landscaping business. While Barry focused on building his business, Suzanne dedicated her time and attention to managing the home, taking care of their young daughter Macy, who was still in high school. Soon after relocating to Colorado in May of 2018, Suzanne's battle with cancer returned. On October 1st of 2019, Suzanne had her last round of cancer treatment. Although still facing maintenance treatments, she was overjoyed to be nearing the end of chemotherapy. She had also scheduled an appointment the day after Mother's Day to be in the all clear.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah. Suzanne planned a quiet day for Mother's Day 2020. Her daughters, Mallory and Macy, were camping with a friend out of state. They were actually to be returning that Sunday, Monday. And Barry was at a job site about 150 miles away in Broomfield, Colorado, which is like a suburb of Denver.
Yeah.
And even though Mallory and Macy couldn't be with their mom on Mother's Day, they still called and texted her the night before and the day of. But as the morning of May 10th turned into the afternoon, Mallory and Macy got really concerned because their mother was not responding to any of their calls or texts. So they went ahead and called the neighbor because this could happen on any other day, but not Mother's Day. So they called the neighbor to see if he would go and check on them because they knew their dad was away in Broomfield. And so the closest, easiest way to have somebody check to see if their mom was okay at home was the neighbor.
Okay.
So when the neighbor arrived at the Morphew home, he knocked on the door, he looked in the windows, he walked around the house, and there's no signs of Suzanne at all. So he went ahead and called Barry,
Okay.
and he let Barry know, hey, Mallory and Macy called me. They're worried about Suzanne. She hasn't returned any text messages or phone calls. Barry was like, hey, they had mentioned to me that she hadn't been returning their calls either. He said, do me a quick favor. Will you check to see if her mountain bike's there? Because if her mountain bike's gone, then she's on a ride. But she usually goes for the rides in the morning, and it's afternoon now. So the neighbor said, well, her bike's not here. And Barry immediately told him to call the police because if her bike wasn't there, she's missing.
Uh,
Yes.
Does she not have a car?
Oh no, her car's there.
So
But
her
Barry was just very specific that if her mountain bike wasn't there, she had to have been missing because she goes
wouldn't
for mountain bike rides.
why would that make her missing though? Wouldn't that just make her on a friggin' ride?
It's what he told the neighbor
All right,
to
man.
call 911 because. So, at 5:58 p.m., May 10th, 2020, a call went out in Chaffee County stating a possible missing person with cancer.
Hold up. It's not even 6 o'clock yet in May.
Mm-hmm.
So it's daylight out.
Uh-huh.
And he's like, she missed it.
Yep.
She's gone. What?
Yep.
All right, man.
As soon as the police received the call, they headed to the Morphew residence, and after hearing from the neighbor, they went out and searched the roads around the house. As they turned back down the road leading to the house, the officers spotted a bicycle near the house. But it was like over a steep incline. So, to kind of describe where Suzanne and Barry live, it is in the mountains.
Yeah.
So, we're going down dirt roads, and you do have a decent driveway to go up.
Yeah.
So, there is on these roads a lot of drop offs on the sides. There's creeks, ravines, those types of things.
Mhm.
So, the bike was off the edge of the road pointed down towards a ravine, like leaned on its side. We'll have pictures in the description for you guys. And when the police officers arrived to this, they had noticed on the road that there wasn't any scuffle marks. There wasn't any braking marks, any footprints, anything that showed a sign of a struggle.
Okay.
When they got down to the bike, the handlebars were twisted in an unnatural position. It was not as if somebody had drove, like they said, it didn't look like someone had rode off the road on an accident. It looked like the bike was placed there. Also, her helmet was nowhere to be found. And there was some taller grass around the bike because, we're going down into a ravine, and
Huh.
all of it was perfectly fine. Nothing was pushed down, nothing that would say there was an accident here. No blood, nothing. Yeah. So when Barry arrives at the house that evening, he gets out of his truck, walks right up to the bike, touches the handlebars, and says, yeah, that's Suzanne's bike. As the officer goes, can you please not touch evidence? So Barry was questioned about the previous day and what he had done that day. Barry told detectives that the night before, Saturday, May 9th, he returned home around 3 p.m. to find Suzanne sunbathing on the back porch, what she had been heading off to do earlier that day after he came home for lunch, which was soup that Suzanne had made. He then continued on saying that they had a pleasant night, free of phones, and just enjoying each other's company. He grilled steaks, they enjoyed a nice dinner, and after dinner, he loaded his tools up in his truck for the job he was going to the next day before heading to bed, having sex, setting his alarm for 4:30 a.m., and they went to sleep around 8 p.m. On Mother's Day the following day, Barry said he woke up when his alarm went off at 4:30 a.m. and headed off for Broomfield about 5 a.m., which was about 150 miles away. He had a job site. When he left their house, Barry said Suzanne was still asleep in bed, sound asleep and snoring. Once he arrived in Broomfield, Barry told the detectives he had checked into the Holiday Inn. He would be staying there for the work project. He then texted Suzanne to wish her happy Mother's Day, but he received no response. But he figured she was just out for a bike ride, then headed to the job site where he worked until he received the phone call from his neighbor. This is the version of events Barry sticks to throughout his interviews with law enforcement. While he does start to mix some days up or adjust certain parts to explain evidence away, he sticks to these bones. Something else he would constantly bring up in interviews was that it was a night free of chemicals in Suzanne's system.
What the
You
fuck does that
see,
mean?
well, Suzanne had been using cannabis to help with her cancer, and she enjoyed the occasional drink, something Barry did not like.
Why did he call that
So,
chemicals though?
and that's what was so strange to me was that from day one, he is referring to anytime she drank or had alcohol as it being chemicals in her system in every interview. The other thing is, this man put such an emphasis on sex. They
It,
had sex before. They have a great sex life. You know, men are simple. You give them sex, you give them this. It's like he is obsessed with that. He will also go on to tell stories about how she was taken for sex.
like trafficking?
Like,
Trap, trap,
because somebody wanted,
trap.
not
Did I
even
say that right?
trafficking, yeah, like trafficking or just somebody wanted her for sex. Yeah. It's a whole thing
What?
that he never stops.
Okay.
So, Barry does let the police in the house that night to look around. The officers noticed some reddish brown staining on a door, like the closet door in the master bedroom around that area, also on a wall. And also, the kitchen only had one set of dishes from dinner. Papers were scattered across the kitchen counters, and he pointed out Suzanne's biking clothes in the closet for them to take for canine searches, which they do in the following days. And those searches, the dogs do hit on a few spots, but nothing's ever discovered there.
Okay.
So, during an interview with detectives, Barry raised a theory regarding what might have happened to his missing wife. Barry suggested the possibility that a mountain lion may have attacked Suzanne. Mountain lion attacks did happen in Chaffee County, making it plausible that a mountain lion could have attacked Suzanne.
That is so rare though. And honestly, you can scare off a mountain lion so
All I
easily.
think of is Parent Trap with the sticks.
Wasn't that bears?
No, she was like,
Was
there's
it
mountain
there's mountain
lions.
lions?
There's mountain lions. Yeah, that's all I could think of the whole time. So, 3 days after Suzanne goes missing, on May 13th, her helmet was found along Highway 50 as the search continued on the southern side of the road.
You just said her helmet was found.
Yes, her
Okay.
helmet was found on Highway 50, not on the road to their house,
Yeah.
not on the driveway, nothing. It just seemingly was tossed out the window of a moving car. It does not look like it fell off somebody. It doesn't look like where you'd be riding a bike. It appeared to have just been thrown out of a car as a deliberate attempt to destroy evidence.
I have a super serial question.
Yes.
Do you think that could have happened with the bike too?
Yeah.
Especially like if the handlebars are all turned weird. Like what if you're just like
Yeah. Basically, like it got twisted, thrown down there to make it look like it.
makes sense. But I
So,
mean, I feel like you'd have to do that out of the back of a truck.
yeah, maybe.
Weird. Go on.
So this helped the police prove Barry's mountain lion theory wrong. Not that they ever believed Barry's theory in the first place. The lack of evidence around her bike was found proved this even further. Also on May 13th, Barry was seen at the police department with barely healed injuries to his arms.
Oh,
These cuts, according to the lead detective, looked like fingernail marks. This evidence, although circumstantial, reflected a possible altercation between Barry and Suzanne. By May 14th, which is 4 days now since she's disappeared, Barry announced he was convinced someone had taken her, and he's offering $100,000 reward for any information regarding Suzanne's whereabouts. His family friend matched that offer, bringing the total reward to $200,000. Barry decided to take his plea to the public on May 17th. We are going to play you this video because it is so great when a husband speaks out. Like, we're looking at you, Chris Watts. But the video is super short, but y'all need to see this.
Oh, Suzanne, if anyone is out there that can hear this, that has you, please, we'll do whatever it takes to bring you back. We love you. We miss you. Your girls need you. No questions asked. However much they want, I will do whatever it takes to get you back. I mean, I love you. I want you back so bad.
So, what are your takes on that?
no questions asked.
I like how he just keeps shaking his head no matter what he's saying.
I don't understand what is he pleading for? Is he pleading come home? Is he pleading someone give her back to me?
Like he puts $100,000 up for
Yeah.
a reward for information and then has a video speaking about it's okay, no questions asked, just come home.
Yeah.
Like, do you think she went away on her own or do you think someone took her?
Okay.
So, so as the days went by without any sign of Suzanne, her brother Andrew began to feel a growing need to take action. He organized a search party, mobilizing volunteers and search organizations to join the effort. They utilized various means to locate Suzanne, including searching waterways by boat, helicopters to scan from above, and meticulously combing through the mountain terrain on foot. But can you guess who was never at a single search?
I feel like this is a common theme for us.
Mm-hmm. But can you guess?
Barry.
It was. Barry was never there. For the residents of Salida, there was a fear of a predator being out there, but there was also a sense of community. They held vigils?
Veggies.
Veggies. They held vigils and organized search parties. Although the details of the case were still shrouded in uncertainty, one thing was clear to detectives. It seemed unlikely that Suzanne had gone on a bike ride on May 10th. The detectives formed this assessment after examining Suzanne's Range Rover. Inside the car, they found her sunglasses and hydration bottle, items she always carried while she was mountain biking.
Uh-huh.
They also found Suzanne's driver's license and credit cards in her car, but her phone was missing. Suzanne's phone was an essential part of her everyday life, and she often used it when she went biking. She would never want to be without her phone in case she encountered an emergency.
Like a mountain lion.
Yeah, remember how Barry said he figured the reason she didn't answer was because she could have been on a bike ride?
Yeah.
But she always had her phone with her on bike rides.
I mean, to be fair, if you're like booking it down some rocks or something, you can't answer the phone. So, like, I get it.
It's 2020. We have AirPods.
I don't know. I guess, like, my family, we specifically have, like, if you call more than once, it's going to be an emergency.
Yeah,
Most likely.
but none of the calls or texts from her daughter or Barry were answered
Hmm.
or returned.
Okay.
Considering that in an interview with one of the daughters, she stated that the marriage was an unsafe place emotionally for her mom and that they were not doing well at all. A big contrast to the image Barry was painting to detectives up to this point. She also stated that her mom usually goes on mountain bike rides in the afternoon and she would always have her cell phone, sunglasses, and blue hydration pack with her. These are all things minus the phone we just found in her car.
Hmm.
The detectives also interviewed her sister Melinda, who revealed that things were not as they seemed between Suzanne and her husband. According to Melinda, 2 days before Suzanne went missing, she received a lengthy text message from her sister expressing anger towards Barry. Suzanne accused Barry of being both physically and verbally abusive. Melinda described Barry as being overly dominant and intimidating.
The one thing I do know about this case, Melinda and Suzanne they share the same birthday.
Yes.
That's one of the few things I
Yes,
know about
yes,
this
they
case.
do share the same
How
birthday.
awful is that?
Yeah, that's
I
gotta
mean,
be
it's
horrible.
exciting. Growing up, they probably hated it,
Yeah, but
but
now
I think
she
that's
probably
awesome.
loves it and hates it.
She's
Yeah.
back to hating her own birthday. Oh my god.
Yeah, that's a full circle for sisters.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, in another interview with detectives, Sheila, who is Suzanne's best friend, she lives in Indiana still, gave an even more in-depth look at their relationship.
Okay.
And Sheila and Suzanne were always in constant contact through Snapchat and text. Because of this, Sheila got very worried when she heard Suzanne was missing because she hadn't heard from her since she snapped her 3 times. Sheila snapping Suzanne 3 times between 6:40 and 6:48 on Saturday, May 9th. Suzanne always opened her Snapchats immediately. Those ones weren't open or responded to.
Even though she was just at home.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sheila's daughter was getting married the next day, and Suzanne had been very excitedly helping her finalize details, and she was so excited to watch this wedding online the next day. She had been helping with it for months at this point.
Oh, this was during COVID, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I was like, why was she there? I was gonna say my husband's mom's best friends were at our wedding.
COVID.
COVID. Okay.
COVID. She went on to recall a text conversation from March 25th, 2020, where Suzanne talked about Barry being very Jekyll and Hyde like in his behaviors, wanting a divorce, but Barry wouldn't hear of it. Says he thinks he says that she can't survive without him financially. She can no longer physically take care of herself in the marriage. So we have Barry kind of being an asshole.
Uh-huh. What did she do for work again?
She was a teacher,
Okay.
but she's just staying at home taking care of
Herself and her
herself and the
kid.
kid.
Okay. Okay.
Um, she also recalled a few encounters with Barry over the years. I want to go back to the summer of 2019. Suzanne was on a trip in Michigan, and Barry kept calling Sheila asking why Suzanne wasn't returning his calls. Sheila was not in Michigan with Suzanne.
Oh,
Barry knew this.
wait, he knew she wasn't in Michigan with her?
Yes, and wanted and was trying to figure out why Suzanne wasn't calling him back. So his first guess was Sheila.
Okay,
Sheila would
psycho.
know.
Jeez.
So, but let's just continue with Barry being a psycho.
Oh.
Later in September of 2019, Sheila was visiting Suzanne in Colorado,
Mhm.
and Barry came sneaking up through the woods spying on them.
Hold up.
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Oh, and this
Wait, what were
isn't
they
the only time he's done this. Investigators discovered GPS data on his phone that he did it on May 9th during lunch.
like while she
But
was sunbathing?
yeah, but he claims that he came home for lunch for soup and talked to her and then she headed back out. But his GPS data shows him sneaking up through the woods and then going back to his truck. So we're not even sure if Suzanne knew he came home for lunch.
Sneaky, sneaky.
Sneaky, sneaky. 10 days after Suzanne's disappearance, investigators searched the Morphew home again. Searches of the property were done, including digging up concrete Barry had laid recently and an extreme focus on a bobcat and a trailer on his property. This bobcat had a new replaced front blade on it,
Mhm.
including the nuts and the bolts. But they also found a human footprint. A few of them.
Like no shoes.
No shoes.
I don't like that.
I don't like that either. Shortly after the searches of the property in June, as the search for Suzanne had continued, Barry petitioned for guardianship of Suzanne. This filing allowed Barry to sign documents on Suzanne's behalf and sell their residences in Indiana and Colorado. Within a month of Suzanne's disappearance, Barry began liquidating their assets, including selling her Range Rover in July.
That dick.
Yeah. Barry claimed that his daughters, Mallory and Macy, were frightened to stay in the place where they believed their mother had been abducted. Frustrated by the rumors surrounding their father's potential involvement in Suzanne's disappearance, Mallory and Macy remained steadfast by Barry's side, unwavering in their belief of his innocence.
Even though they know their relationship was rocky.
Yes.
Is he like threatening him or something?
Well, and what kind of person starts to sell off everything while waiting for their wife to come home?
In the middle of COVID, also.
Yes. Okay, so back to what was found during this search and the search conducted the night Suzanne was reported missing. Get your flabbergasted and ready, okay?
It's gasted.
A .22 caliber round was located next to Suzanne's bed. Barry owned a pistol of the same caliber, and under the bed was an open gun case with no gun. One of the investigators at the Morphew home noticed damage to the master bedroom door, and based on his experience, he believed the door had been beaten. Previous owners of the house said the door didn't look like that when they sold it.
The bullet.
Unspent.
That's what I needed to know.
Unspent.
Just one, though.
Just one on her side of the bed. Kind of under, like, not all the way rolled underneath, but enough where you could see it if you walked along her side of the bed and you were kind of looking down. So, although this next part isn't solid evidence, they discovered a piece of lacquered wood in the fireplace in the home. The discovery was notable because there was a readily available stack of firewood right there, which raised the question about its placement. The detective speculated that Barry may have intentionally burned the piece of wood as they believe there's evidence related to Suzanne's disappearance on it. Inside the fireplace, the investigators found remnants of burned documents and books. Since investigators had failed to find Suzanne's journal, which her friends claimed she kept bedside, they wondered if Barry had disposed of the journal in the fire after she went missing, as it possibly contained statements that could have made him look guilty. There was also a tranquilizer dart cap found in the dryer, with bedding stripped from one of the spare rooms. But we're going to talk more about that later. I just wanted to see your face. During this search, they also discovered a pen in the master bedroom closet.
A pen?
Like a writing pen, yes. Initially, this item did not stand out to the investigators, as it appeared to just be a regular pen. However, upon closer examination, it was a voice-activated spy pen, which Sheila had actually bought for Suzanne after all of the altercations with Barry.
Good friend.
So Suzanne used this pen to try and capture Barry in an affair, but it failed to pick up any evidence of Barry having an affair. Instead, it recorded Suzanne having an affair. An affair no one knew about except Suzanne.
What?
Yes. Like, this. Okay, I want to talk about the pen. I want to talk about the pen. Honestly, when this came out in the media, I couldn't believe it. This is where I was right back into this case, paying attention all the time. Because, yeah, they found it quick, 10 days after she went missing.
Yeah.
But the FBI had to put in the work. It took months to figure out who she was talking to because all they heard was the name Jeff. Okay. She managed to conceal this affair so well, she didn't tell a friend, a random neighbor, a stranger, her daughters, a sister, no one. No one. It took the FBI months to track down her boyfriend. And his name was Jeff Libler. But the affair with Jeff isn't the only thing that they found on this pin. There was a fight between Suzanne and Barry about money, but not just any money. It was money of hers that she specifically told Barry he couldn't touch. And, well, he did just that. Much of the recording is him saying he will make that money back plus more. She knows he's good for it. But Suzanne was just fed up by the entire thing. But what I think is the most shocking and telling thing found on this pin, Suzanne had put the pin in Barry's truck one day trying to catch him in an affair. But what she recorded was way worse than that. Barry spent his time driving listening to forensic files. Yeah. And not just any episodes. So there is the murder of Vicki Lynn Hoskinson, and she went missing while riding her bike. Her bike was found by her sister in the middle of the road, which starts this missing child case. The family goes on to make public pleas on TV for her return, discussions of her body being in a remote area, how animals scavenged her bones, and investigators tried to figure out when she died. But wait, there's more. And if that wasn't bad enough, he then listened to the case of Walter Scott, a man who went missing that ended up being a homicide victim of James Williams. See, Walter was married to a woman named Joanne, and he was having an affair with a woman named Suzanne. Meanwhile, Joanne was having an affair with James. James killed his ex-wife, staged it as a car accident, married Joanne after he killed Walter.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So I need you to just hold on to the plot of these podcasts because it's going to come in handy later. I promise. But what a day for her to sneak that pin in the truck.
Agreed. I have a question, though.
Yeah.
How the fuck did she record herself having an affair on this pin?
This pin is voice activated. So she would leave it in rooms. And she would leave the house or leave it somewhere where she know Barry would be when he thinks he's alone. She fucked up a few times and apparently recorded her own stuff. There were some deleted files on there. They did recover, one of them being Suzanne's affair. So some of the files they recovered, some of them were there. But
I don't have any need for this pen whatsoever, but I want one.
right, so do I. I really want one.
Yeah. I think I'm just nosy, though. I think that's my problem.
Okay, but back to who the fuck is Jeff?
Yeah, who the fuck is Jeff?
Jeff Libler was a married man with 6 children.
Jesus Christ.
Living in Michigan.
Stop that.
You have 6 children and you have time to have an affair? Sir.
Wait, how old are his kids?
They were in the house. He had been a classmate of Barry and Suzanne's in high school in Indiana. When the detectives found Jeff, they interviewed him about Suzanne and asked why he had not come forward about their affair months earlier. And according to Jeff, he did not want to tarnish Suzanne's name and wanted to defend his image as a devoted family man. He claimed that he deleted every account he used to communicate with Suzanne. Jeff claimed that he and Suzanne reconnected on Facebook in 2018 when she messaged him, "Hi, stranger."
She sent that?
Yes. Right after they moved to Colorado.
Hey, stranger.
I know, I read it like that every time.
Ew. I hate that I did it that way.
As suspicious as Jeff looked for not coming forward with the affair, he was cooperative once the air was cleared. He willingly handed the detectives a sample of his DNA and gave the detectives the usernames and passwords for his deleted accounts. On this note, it was a lot of different platforms they used. They would message on LinkedIn to see if it was safe, and then they would move to WhatsApp or another similar messaging app. When the detectives checked his alibi, they confirmed it, removing him as a suspect in Suzanne's disappearance. He was cleared, good to go, checked out.
He's just a devoted family man.
Yeah. By analyzing Jeff and Suzanne's cell phone records and iCloud accounts, the investigators uncovered a series of sexually explicit images exchanged between the two. Investigators also discovered that the couple met for affairs in various cities across the US, including New Orleans, Florida, and Texas. Furthermore, the investigators uncovered messages in which Suzanne and Jeff discussed the possibility of leaving their respective spouses and marrying each other. They even mentioned the idea of running away to Ecuador.
Huh.
Yeah, so we were super deep into this affair.
I mean, if they went to school together.
So, on the day that Suzanne was reported missing, investigators observed that Suzanne and Jeff had exchanged 59 messages on their phones. When the conversation took a sexual turn, they decided to switch to WhatsApp at 2:11 p.m. WhatsApp provided a more secure platform for their communication, allowing them to freely engage in sexually explicit conversations without the fear of their significant others because they were both married. Yeah. Not the affair we thought we were going to get in this investigation. As Suzanne was engrossed in a naughty text exchange with Jeff on WhatsApp, Barry sent a message saying, "I'm on my way home." And based on cell phone location evidence, investigators saw that Barry had returned home at 2:40 p.m., 10 minutes after Suzanne had sent her last text message to Jeff before her disappearance.
I'm piecing something together in my mind.
Oh, we're about to get there.
Okay.
So now I want to talk a bit more about Suzanne and Barry's phone records.
Oh, God.
They reveal a lot about the state of their marriage before they disappeared. Something huge that was discovered when they got Suzanne's records from Verizon was on May 8th, her Notes app data was backed up. There was a note on there from May 6th about Barry accusing Suzanne of an affair. An affair he acts shocked to hear about from investigators.
Huh.
And that it took him, I believe, over a year before he told Mallory and Macy about it.
Oscar.
Yeah. On May 8th, she texted her sister Melinda stating, "It's hard dealing with the harsh abrasiveness and having to show respect. He's also been abusive emotionally and physically." On Saturday, May 9th, she posted her bike ride on her Instagram story, something she often did, usually tagging her location on the trail, and something that hasn't happened since May 9th.
Hmm.
According to the affidavit, Suzanne's phone shows no signs of use for her after May 9th around 2:40, and no evidence on her phone GPS has her leaving the Morphew residence after May 8th, 2020 at 7:06 p.m. Clearly, Suzanne was very done with this marriage. She had felt trapped for years. That was apparent through her affair with Jeff, but now she was letting people know about Barry's abuse. Speaking of Barry, let's talk about his phone and all of the deleted things on his phone. We're going to go back a little bit to April 24th. It was a recovered message on Barry's phone from Suzanne that read, "Oh, I'm sure your mistress has you all happy now, so you can say you love me, but you bully me when you're with me. Yeah, that's love." Barry deleted numerous calls between them from May. He deleted numerous calls between May 4th and 5th.
Mm-hmm.
When asked about it, he said he didn't know why. He must have been just clearing up space on his phone. But this was interesting to detectives because it was the very first time Barry had called Suzanne's phone since February 7th. So he has not physically called her phone since February. And now all the calls between them on May 4th through 5th are deleted.
Hmm.
So this brings us to May 6th, the same day Barry accuses Suzanne of that affair.
Mm-hmm.
That morning, Barry called Suzanne's phone 6 consecutive times from 8:06 to 8:13. Around 10 a.m., she texted him, "I'm done. Let's just handle this civilly." That afternoon into evening, Barry responded to Suzanne saying, "When I'm dead, going to see my savior, this life on earth is a mere grain of sand compared to eternity." Those are 3 separate text messages.
She sent to him?
No, Barry
He
sent those to Suzanne the evening of May 6th after he had been accusing her of an affair that morning. And she said she was done.
Do we find out if he has been having an affair? Or is it very like,
So
no?
he it never comes out that he has an affair while they're together in Colorado.
Okay.
There are family members and friends who have talked about things he was doing in Indiana, which is what leads Suzanne to believe that he is having an affair.
Hmm. To be
So,
fair, there's not a lot to do in Indiana.
well, it is Indiana.
I mean,
You lived there.
I did.
You would know.
It was bad.
So, Barry didn't have like the cleanest track record for not fancying other women, but he wasn't having an affair at the time.
Okay.
So, from Friday evening, May 8th through the 10th, all 11 calls between them are outgoing from Barry's phone. Suzanne does not call him. There are 58 voicemails found on Barry's phone, like in total, but none of them are from Suzanne.
Okay.
Yeah,
She don't give a fuck.
no. And we can't forget the Google searches and
No.
other searches that
Oh, no.
Barry has done on his phone.
Great. So
So,
ready for this.
all of these searches happened throughout January of 2020, just months before Suzanne's disappearance. And Sam,
Huh?
since I know how much you love these, I want you to read them
Oh, no.
because I was not prepared when I read these in the
not prepared.
affidavit,
I'm not
and
prepared.
I really want
You
you
want
to
to
read them.
watch me
Yes,
read them
just read them
out loud?
word for word. Yep, out loud.
No. Okay. On Google, how to make a girl orgasm YouTube. What?
Keep going.
Older man, younger woman relationships. Then on Facebook help, he searched, I can't reset my Facebook password because I can't access the email or mobile number on my account. Was he trying to get in her Facebook or something?
I think he was.
Okay. Third base. Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah, this is the one.
At first I thought it was a baseball thing, and then I kept reading. Third base. My first hand job. Dear Teen Diary, 9th grade entry 14 inches. Oh, God.
No, that's just the end of the quote.
Oh.
Just diary entry 14. I know, I read it that way the first time too. I hoped you read it that way too.
I was worried.
Yeah.
That was on YouTube.
Yeah.
I feel
go.
dirty.
Don't you?
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. One, I feel like he was trying to get in her Facebook. I just
Oh,
do.
definitely. But like,
Sir.
right? Also, can we just say, like, round of applause for the detectives who decided that need to go in the affidavit?
I love it.
I do. Out there
Okay.
doing The
I'm
one
going
the
to play a
boys.
small bit of devil's advocate here.
Okay.
They've been together since high school, right?
Well, they didn't get together till college. They've just known each other since high school.
Regardless, they've been together a while. I don't know if they were, I mean, at that time, only with each other up until the alleged affairs.
But according to Barry, they had sex all the time. They had a great sex life.
He doesn't know how to make a woman orgasm.
I know.
Also, why did it say girl and not woman? Ugh.
Yeah, it's just dirty.
Ugh.
So let's just continue on about dumb shit Barry does on his phone.
Okay.
Barry's phone indicated that he put it into airplane mode only 7 minutes after returning home
What an
on
idiot.
May 10th.
Okay.
Or May 9th, I'm sorry. The detectives believe that Suzanne, in the midst of an intimate encounter with her lover Jeff, failed to notice her husband's unexpected return. This scenario sparked their theory that Barry, driven by rage, may have harmed Suzanne and placed his phone in airplane mode as he took steps to cover the crime. The detectives working on Suzanne's case faced the challenge of tracking Barry's movements while his phone was in airplane mode. So, to overcome this obstacle, they decided to reach out to an expert in a relatively new field of forensic science, Ben Lemire, an expert in vehicle forensics. And I wish Barry drove the kind of truck, or I wish Al Stock drove the truck that Barry drives, and you're going to understand in a minute.
Okay. I want to pause you really quick
Yes.
though, because when I said I was piecing together stuff,
This is
that's
what you
what I
are
was
piecing
piecing
together. I knew I
together.
was about to say something to you.
That's exactly what I was piecing together, especially if he was like sneaking on her up in the woods. He probably saw her doing some shit while she was sunbathing, while she's sexting her homeboy Jeff.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah.
All right.
That's why I
All
put
right.
that. Yeah. Yeah.
It makes sense. Okay, go on. Truck.
Okay. So Ben uncovered valuable information about Barry's movements when his phone was in airplane mode. Barry said he went to bed on May 9th around 8 p.m. However, the data from Barry's truck showed a different story. It revealed the truck was turned on and put in reverse at 9:30. The car was moved 96 feet closer to the Morphew home at that time.
I'm sorry. They can track
Oh,
if it's put in reverse and how like within feet.
Oh yeah, and it will tell you what time what doors open. Do you see how honestly, I wish Al would have drove Barry's truck.
What the fuck?
Right? Like
Okay.
we could have
That's
had
cool.
way
That's cool
more
as
info.
fuck.
So, oh yeah, this
Okay.
guy's awesome. So, if you remember, Barry had informed the detectives that he had set his alarm for 4:30 a.m. on Mother's Day morning and left his home by 5 a.m. to drive to Broomfield. However, the computer data from the vehicle told a different story. It showed that at 3:30 a.m., Barry was supposed to be asleep. Somebody was opening and closing the truck doors.
The
Just a
night
note about his
before.
alarm being set. It changes so many times in interviews with detectives to I set it to 4:30. I just naturally woke up then. Just he goes from I didn't set it, I set it, I naturally woke up. He can't keep it straight.
Huh.
The detectives believe that Barry had started his drive to Broomfield earlier than he claimed. However, from 4 a.m. to 8 a.m., there was a gap in the computer records indicating no activity. The expert explains that this can occur due to computer overwrites and various other errors. Unfortunately, wherever Barry drove in that 4 hour time is lost. And if we had that 4 hour time, there would not be all the questions that there are in this case.
Mm-hmm.
Before the computer data stopped recording, the GPS from Barry's vehicle, it showed Barry making a left turn out of his driveway. However, Barry told investigators that he had taken a right to work, which was his usual route. This discrepancy in Barry's statement raised suspicion among the detectives, and they confronted him about the change. Barry explained that he had made a left turn on the morning of May 10th because he had seen a herd of elk. And being an avid hunter, he felt compelled to get an up close look at them. However, by admitting to making the right turn, Barry placed himself where the officers found Suzanne's helmet. The discovery was huge. It was a lie, and he had told it very early on. And he's now very obviously covering that lie up. Are you good?
Yeah, man.
You just processing?
Yeah. God.
So at 8:10 a.m., the computer data started recording again, indicating
8:10
that
a.m.
Barry's cell phone had been turned back on after being in airplane mode. So by tracking
In
both,
the morning?
yeah, so
Okay.
his phone was in airplane mode, and we don't have that data from the truck. But I'm wondering if him turning his phone back on at 8 is what makes the computer start going again,
Mm-hmm.
or like that recording being synced, and with his phone being in airplane mode, like after he turns,
Uh-huh.
that it I don't know if that and the computer syncing and the override goes together. I'm
Yeah.
just talking out loud, but that's the only connection I can really make.
So his phone, I'm sorry, I'm trying to get this together in my mind. So his phone was in airplane mode from the night before.
No, just that little time after they got home. His phone's at home. I think that he said that they had their phones off or down, weren't using them.
Yes.
So even if his phone was out of airplane mode and just sitting in the house, it's still
Okay.
going to have the same data.
But was it in airplane mode the next morning as well?
Yes, when he left.
Sneaky bitch.
Yep, sneaky, sneaky. So at 8:10 a.m., the computer data started recording again, indicating that Barry's cell phone had turned back on after being in airplane mode. By
Mm-hmm.
tracking both Barry's vehicle and the cell phone data, the investigators were able to determine that he pulled his truck over at a Broomfield bus stop for a few minutes and disposed of some trash. Barry then proceeded to the Holiday Inn where he was staying while working in Broomfield, and after briefly visiting the hotel, he headed out to McDonald's where he disposed of additional items into the dumpster. He didn't eat it at McDonald's, he just used the trash can.
That's suspicious.
Next, he drives to a Men's Warehouse where he disposed of additional items in a dumpster. Barry then returned to the Holiday Inn where he remained until he went home after Suzanne was reported missing. Due to the grainy quality of the CCTV footage, the detectives faced challenges in determining what items Barry was throwing away. Barry denied that he was disposing of evidence of his wife's disappearance by driving to several dumpsters and trash cans in Broomfield and throwing items out. He stated that his actions were motivated by his desire to save money and explained that it was common for him to dispose of his junk in public garbage cans to avoid the cost of sending it to a landfill.
Okay, I get that, but put it all in one dumpster.
Oh
Don't be
no.
so sus
Oh, no,
about
no,
it
no.
all.
All the trash cans were like super full at like 8 a.m. So he had to go to multiple ones because it wouldn't fit.
All of them. Every single one. You
Yeah.
couldn't just hit businesses like next to each other, though.
No. And at 8 a.m., they were all really full.
Right.
Yeah. However, that day, same day, the officers recalled that Barry returned home. They peered into his truck and it was filled with clutter and trash.
Mm,
Yeah.
man.
Detectives also discovered that while Barry claimed he was on his way home when the neighbor called him and he advised the neighbor to call 911, he was actually in his hotel room just chilling, where he had been most of the day and not at the job site like he had been telling them. And hotel security footage and cell phone records prove this. Because Barry had to leave the job, one of his coworkers assumed his duties, including taking care of the hotel accommodations arranged for Barry at the Broomfield Holiday Inn. And I want to note, these one of these coworkers was supposed to ride up with him on Sunday, and he called her at the last minute and said they want to drive up separate. He told investigators it was because she smoked and he didn't want cigarette smoke in his car, but she was really confused by the whole situation and why she had to come up later. Not only that, when her and another coworker get up to the job site, nothing had been done and not even the right tools were there. And Barry said time and time again that he was up there at the job site and preparing everything.
Okay. I have friends that are smokers, and all of them are very respectful and won't smoke in a car. And it's not like he was going that far. Like, yeah, it seems like 150 miles is far, but it wasn't that far.
Yeah.
Also, why be like, yeah, we can ride together, and then, JK, never mind.
Oh, yeah. The coworker thought it was really weird.
Mm-hmm.
However, when those coworkers checked into the hotel that night and entered the room that Barry had spent the entire day in, they noticed an overwhelming smell of bleach and chlorine. This scent caught the attention of the detectives, who believed it may have originated from Barry cleaning up evidence. But, of course, Barry has a different explanation for this. And we'll get there. Also found in the room, there was just a lot of paperwork just scattered places. And not just any paperwork, like insurance paperwork. His coworker thought it was really weird. So, Barry's also seen in surveillance at the hotel carrying a folder of disheveled paper under his arms, which explains all the papers in the room. And footage from the hotel shows him changing clothes after arriving before heading back out to that McDonald's. He comes back, he changes clothes again before you see him leaving the final time.
Oh.
But remember how I said Barry had offered a different explanation for the bleach and chlorine scent?
Uh-huh.
According to him, that particular room had a smell due to being close to the indoor pool. And chlorine emits a scent reminiscent of bleach. But I want to point out that this is COVID.
Yeah.
Pools weren't open.
Yeah, especially at
Now,
hotels.
there's a lot of controversy regarding that because there's things that say the hotel manager backs Barry's claim up on that, and
Mhm.
there's things that say he just says, yes, there's a pool. So I've stayed in rooms near the pool, and
Yeah.
in the hallway you can have that really strong, but I'm sorry, there is a difference between chlorine and bleach,
Very much.
and I have never mistaken the two.
Yeah.
As the detectives continued to scrutinize Barry as a potential suspect in his wife's disappearance, they delved deeper into one piece of evidence gathered at the Morphew's home in Salida. The crime scene investigators made one significant discovery during their search of the Morphew's laundry room. Nestled within the dryer, they discovered that clear plastic cap that resembled a tranquilizer dart. And good old Barry, he always had an answer for everything.
Mm.
He asserted that he anticipated the detectives were going to uncover evidence of tranquilizer darts on his property, claiming that as an experienced dart gun shooter, he was well versed in loading them with paralyzing chemicals. Remember him bringing up chemicals to describe alcohol and drugs in her system?
The weed.
Yeah, like now we're starting to understand why
Actual
he's using the word
chemicals.
chemicals, because
Mm.
we know alleged criminals are dumb and
Yeah.
give themselves away.
Who would have known?
So, despite his acknowledgement of the illegality of his actions, Barry confessed to the police that he had used the tranquilizer guns to shoot deer and remove their antlers unlawfully.
Oh my.
Yeah. So it's okay. He'll fess up to a lesser crime to cover up the bigger alleged crime.
Yeah.
Barry's cell phone records revealed that he had been moving outside his property on May 9th, and this movement seemed to indicate an active pursuit of something or someone. And detectives speculated that Barry may have been chasing Suzanne, as they believed that a fight ensued after he discovered her in a compromising position sexually, texting her lover.
Like I suggested earlier.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You're following along pretty well. Regarding the time when his phone was pinging all over the house on May 9th, Barry had an explanation. He denied that he was chasing his wife with a tranquilizer gun. Instead, he claimed he was shooting at chipmunks. They had been such a nuisance on his property, so he often
Chipmunks.
just shot at chipmunks.
Chipmunks. With a tranquilizer dart.
Yeah, chipmunks. Mm-hmm. Barry the chipmunk chaser. According to an agent from the Colorado Bureau of Investigation, or the CBI, an animal tranquilizer could have knocked Suzanne unconscious within 10 minutes, causing breathing difficulties and hypoxia, ultimately leading to her death. She would be able to run for about 2 to 4 minutes before the effect of the dart kicked in. The agent believed that Suzanne's heavy breathing caused by the tranquilizer could have produced noises that resembled snoring. This detail is particularly compelling considering Barry's repeatedly telling the detectives that the last sound he heard from his wife as he left for work was light snoring. Yeah. In October of 2020, while all of this evidence and new information is being found by police and supplied in the many interviews Barry had been doing with detectives, news was starting to come out that Barry was in a new relationship. So we are 5 months after his wife's missing. And the rumor is that he has been in a relationship with a woman named Shoshana Drake since right after Suzanne disappeared in May.
Hmm.
So he wasn't having an active affair that we knew of,
Allegedly.
but we might have been talking to some people, allegedly.
Or, you know, a lot of the reasons why men dispose of their wives
It's for a new one,
is for a new one.
allegedly.
Allegedly.
I felt this was just such a bad move on Barry's part. It didn't really help us play it innocence, and he was acting as if and telling everyone that Suzanne was going to come home. Him and the girls are waiting for her. But he's out here dating someone else already and liquidating their assets. But he's telling everyone she's going to walk through that door any minute.
I genuinely don't get how his daughters have been backing him with all this information.
We're going to get to them.
Oh, okay.
So on May 5th, 2021, so almost 1 year to the day Suzanne was reported missing, Barry was arrested for her murder. Despite the unwavering support of his daughters,
Hmm.
the mounting evidence against Barry eventually compelled the district attorney to file charges against him for Suzanne's murder, even in the absence of Suzanne's body.
I'm
Barry,
surprised it took a year, honestly.
I was too. But it took them so long to figure out the spy pen and Jeff.
That's fair.
So Barry was charged with first-degree murder, tampering with evidence, and attempting to influence a public servant in his wife's disappearance. He was held without bail. As the bailiffs led Barry away, his daughters were in tears, and he mouthed the words, "I love you," to them.
Ugh.
Yeah. On May 6, 2021, Barry entered a not guilty plea. The arrest affidavit stated that Barry could no longer control Suzanne as she insisted on leaving him. As a result, he resorted to something he had done his entire life: hunt and control Suzanne like he had hunted and controlled animals. And I've told you this a million times. I've read this entire 130-page affidavit, and they lay out a very good idea of what they believe happened to her.
Mm-hmm.
And they believe that that Barry confronted Suzanne about the affair
With Jeff.
with Jeff, and then confirmed it days later by catching her texting him, shot her with a tranquilizer, knocking her out, possibly killing her, and then took her remains somewhere else while disposing of evidence along his drive to Broomfield.
So, are they thinking it happened that Saturday that he said, "Oh, I had a steak and we had a great night"? Are they thinking it happened then
Yeah,
or
they're
like Sunday
thinking that
morning?
he came home, found her texting Jeff,
Yeah.
went inside, got the dart already,
Mm-hmm.
came outside, shot her, or they were running around. He was chasing her, shot her. That's what all the movement is in
Okay.
airplane mode. And then he put her in bed
Hmm.
and snoring like he had to do whatever else. I mean, she could have died from the tranquilizer dart. She could have waken up in the morning and then he was
Mm-hmm.
like, "Well, oh shit. I trained you and now I have to do something about it."
Mm-hmm. Interesting.
But yes. So, and I could go on for hours about Barry's different interviews and the way he contradicts himself and backs himself into a wall after wall after wall, and the ways that he tries to turn Suzanne's family accusing him back on them. Well, only guilty people accuse other people. Meanwhile, that's all he does in all of his interviews is point the finger somewhere else.
He accused a cute little mountain lion.
He did. So Barry hires a high profile attorney from Denver to represent him. In a preliminary hearing on September 17th, 2021, Barry's attorney argued that the cap of the tranquilizer gun, which was alleged to be the weapon used to kill Suzanne, could have been there for any amount of time. At this preliminary hearing, the state presented evidence that severely damaged their case against Barry.
Huh.
When crime scene investigators processed the inside of Suzanne's vehicle, they discovered DNA on the glove box. And upon examination, technicians were able to establish a partial male DNA profile that did not match Barry or Jeff. And the profile did match 3 unsolved sexual assaults in Arizona and Chicago. And despite the lack of evidence directly connecting Barry to his wife's murder, the judge decided to proceed with the trial. However, he did allow Barry to be released on a $500,000 cash bond. So, there is a lot of confusion regarding the partial DNA profile. And the best way I can explain this to you is this DNA partially matched to somebody who is in CODIS. And a partial match does nothing.
Uh-huh.
You have to have a full match for it to be relevant in court. So yes, we do have a partial DNA match. We do know who or what other crimes it belongs to, but we don't have a full match. But it's enough uncertainty to fuck this shit up. So, I almost didn't include all the third-party DNA stuff because it's so confusing and the debate about it being relevant or not, but it does play such a large part in how Barry got a bond and what happens later on with his charges.
Yeah.
So Barry walked out of the jail with an ankle monitor ensuring his confinement in Chaffee County. Mallory and Macy stood by his side, each holding a hand, and Barry returned home while he awaited trial, which was set for May 3rd, 2022.
Huh. So another year, basically.
Yeah, we're in like September, so
Oh, okay.
like
Few
6
months.
So a few days later, on September 27th, 2021, Shoshana Dark, you remember Barry's girlfriend? Yeah. She was arrested and charged with second-degree criminal trespassing after she was seen on video by the owners of the Morphew's former home. The security footage showed a woman identified as Shoshana walking up the driveway to the front door and taking a package in a cardboard box. It's not clear what was in the box or if the police ever recovered it. The owners of the home said they had no idea what the package was and said she had no permission to be on their property. Shoshana was released on bond, and several months later, the charges against her were dropped. What are y'all doing?
Did he have something delivered there?
Yes. And sent her to go pick it up. Like, you
Go
need
on.
to change the address on your Amazon, dude.
Bro.
So,
I love that they like went after her for that though.
I really did enjoy it. They were like, and purchase. So in April of 2022, almost a year after Barry's arrest and him sitting around waiting for trial, Barry's defense team filed motions and asked the judge to hold the state accountable for not handing over critical evidence in a timely manner. Barry's defense team argued that the state failed to comply with the discovery phase deadline, which is required under court rules to disclose all relevant evidence and information to the other side.
Mm-hmm.
The judge agreed with the defense's team assessment, finding the state had failed to meet the deadline. As a result, the judge issued an order barring 14 prosecution witnesses, including the crucial expert specializing in vehicle forensics and cell phone analysis. The state absolutely dropped the ball here. I can't help but think what could have happened if this didn't happen. But not all hope is lost. Close that little jaw, Pooh. On April 19th, 2022, the state responded to the court's decision by dismissing charges against Barry without prejudice. The state expressed that without the testimonies and evidence from these witnesses, they were unable to proceed with their case. If additional evidence is discovered at a later time, the state may choose to refile charges against Barry. So, it's not what we wanted, But with how they dropped the charges, they left it open to be able to charge him again in the event that more evidence comes up. Like, for example, her body.
Mm-hmm.
Investigators believed they were getting close to finding her body, so they were okay with dropping these charges like this. They just needed a little bit more time. Or so they thought. Something that did come from all of this is Mallory and Macy joined their dad for the first time speaking out publicly since Suzanne, their mother, had gone missing. So, yeah, I said the first time.
After years.
The first time.
Years. Oh my gosh. Okay.
And it's absolutely crazy. Yeah, 2 years. No, not just an interview like this. There was nothing in town.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't go to vigils. They weren't at searches. One of the ladies in town who owns the tanning booth said one of the girls came in, looked at the poster and said, "That's my mom." Went in, did her tan. The lady tried to say like, "Oh, introduce herself, blah, blah, like we've been organizing and doing all these vigils. We really hope that you guys will come to the next one." And then, wouldn't you know, she left and the pictures and posters of Suzanne were gone.
That's
So,
suspicious.
we're going to go ahead and play this.
Oh.
And then we'll be back.
Missing Colorado mom Suzanne Morphew. They are speaking out with their father Barry for the first time since murder charges against him were dropped last month. Amy is here with the exclusive interview. Good morning, Amy.
Hey, good morning, Michael. For more than a year, a Colorado man was accused by state prosecutors of killing his wife, who disappeared on Mother's Day back in 2020. But just days before he was scheduled to go on trial, Barry Morphew had the charges against him dismissed, and now he and his daughters are speaking out. And in the coming weeks, their attorney says they will request an investigation into how they say the district attorney mishandled this case.
We've been silent for a long time, and we've decided that we finally want to break the silence.
This morning, just days before the second anniversary of her disappearance, the family of Suzanne Morphew is speaking out for the first time since the murder charges against her husband were dropped.
It's been an emotional roller coaster, but we feel like we can finally take our first steps in healing, which is a blessing. And yeah, we just know our dad better than anyone else. And we know he was not involved in our mom's disappearance.
Mallory and Macy Morphew standing by their father, who investigators believe was responsible for their mother's disappearance 2 years ago. The three seen walking out of court arm in arm just moments after the charges against him were dropped.
We want to heal. We feel like we haven't been able to heal these past 2 years.
The family says Suzanne left her Colorado home for a bike ride, but never returned.
I just love my girls. And I love my wife. And I just want her to be found.
But investigators told a different story, arresting Barry Morphew, the charges ranging from first-degree murder to tampering with physical evidence. Prosecutors argued that Morphew discovered his wife was having an affair, then murdered her, disposed of her body, and staged a bike crash in a rural area. Releasing this body camera footage from the hours after she was reported missing, police say Morphew touched evidence.
Hey, can you not touch the bike with your hands, please?
Morphew's daughters say he isn't a killer and are celebrating the dismissal of the case, now demanding District Attorney Linda Stanley should do more.
I just hope that Linda will step up to the plate and do everything she can to find our mom, because what they've done is not fair. And we're never going to stop looking for our mom.
Court filings say that while authorities are close to discovering Suzanne's body, weather has complicated the efforts. The location where Suzanne's body is believed to be has 5 feet of snow concealing it. But the family's attorney says authorities have mishandled the case and are planning to file a complaint against the DA.
And if you want to honor Suzanne and you want to honor the daughters, go find Suzanne.
The DA's office telling ABC News they and law enforcement have been diligently searching for Suzanne Morphew since she was reported missing, and that they are continuing to do so.
Prosecutors need to be held responsible. and they need to pay for the damage they've caused to Barry, which is frankly nearly irreparable, because it's hard for anybody to believe that Barry is not who they claim he was.
Now, the family spoke out this weekend. It was Suzanne Morphew's birthday, and her daughters say, of course, they wished they were spending it with her. The charges against Barry Morphew were dismissed without prejudice, which means that if investigators do uncover new evidence, those charges can be filed again, Michael.
All right. Thank you so much, Amy.
So, what are your thoughts on the daughters?
I don't know, man.
It's just weird.
Yeah. They also look very similar to her.
So much
Yeah.
like her.
Yeah. Like, not copy paste similar, but like they have her like smile and her eyes, and if he did it, I don't know how he can look at those girls.
Yeah, and do these girls not have critical thinking?
Right?
How are we just undeniably standing next to our dad?
Naive?
Yeah,
I don't know.
gotta be.
You know how I feel. I don't think anyone's that naive.
Maybe they're scared?
I mean, ultimately, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the most plausible thing is they're scared of him.
Absolutely. But you think that maybe they would want to try to do something. But then again, they
Yeah.
don't know. They don't know the truth.
Yeah, and with how long Barry didn't tell them about the affair, obviously he likes to withhold information from them,
Yeah.
so it's
I don't-
just I get the ick all around.
Yeah. It's just strange that they had very, very little to say about their mother.
Yes, and they have had very little to say about her.
Yeah.
So, in July of 2022, Barry pleads guilty to voter fraud because he voted in Suzanne's name during Trump's presidential campaign in 2020. Like, what else do we expect from Barry? Like, dude, you're a main suspect in your missing wife's murder, so you're gonna commit voter
Especially
fraud?
one that went national.
Yeah. So, weeks went by as the 2-year anniversary of her disappearance came and went. Those weeks turned into months. Another Mother's Day for Mallory and Macy came and went without their mom. But as the third anniversary of Suzanne's disappearance was approaching on May 3rd, 2023, Barry files a lawsuit against Chaffee County prosecutors, the CBI, and the FBI. Hold your eye rolls till the end, please.
I have plenty more to give.
According to 9 News Denver, the lawsuit claims the defendants engaged in actions including malicious prosecution and unlawful detention, fabrication of evidence, conspiracy, unlawful retention of property, reckless investigation, and failure to supervise and train. I want to know what that part is specifically about. As a result of the defendant's conduct, Barry was charged, arrested, and prosecuted, and his property seized for a crime he did not commit. Spent 5 months in jail, approximately 6 more months wearing a GPS ankle monitor with severe restrictions on his movement, and almost a year defending against the criminal charges. To this date, Barry's property remains in CCSD's possession. Barry's name and reputation has been irreparably tarnished in Colorado and all around the country. Loss of familial association with his 2 daughters and great economic losses, including the loss of his home, businesses, savings, and much more. I don't know about you, but this all sounds like the consequences of his alleged actions.
Also, I feel like maybe if they were fighting about money and she was talking about her own money and he could make it back or whatever, how much savings did he actually have?
I just feel like this is Barry's way of pointing the finger back.
Being a dick.
Basically. So 12 days after Barry files this lawsuit, he appears in another ABC exclusive. And who's with him? Mallory and Macy. This is the second time we hear from them. And until last week, or a few weeks ago, it's the only other time we will hear from them. So, We're going to go ahead and play this clip. It's not very long, and let's talk about it.
Now we're going to check back into the story of Suzanne Morphew. The Colorado mother vanished on Mother's Day 3 years ago. Her husband Barry had been charged with murder, but he's now suing prosecutors after they dropped all charges last year. Ariel Reshef has an exclusive interview with Morphew and his daughters. Good morning, Ariel.
Good morning to you guys. Barry Morphew says his life is ruined. That $15 million civil suit accuses prosecutors and law enforcement of lying and withholding evidence, focusing only on Barry Morphew and humiliating him. But authorities tell us they didn't drop the charges because they thought Barry was innocent. They felt they didn't have enough evidence to convict without Suzanne's body.
This morning, demands for justice for Suzanne Morphew, 3 years after the Colorado mom mysteriously vanished on Mother's Day in 2020. Authorities believe she is dead, her body never found, now officially classified a cold case.
Somebody in this community needs to keep her name out there.
Suzanne's husband, Barry, initially charged with first-degree murder and tampering with evidence, but those charges dropped just before his trial. Now Barry and his daughters Macy and Mallory are speaking exclusively to ABC News, claiming his life has been ruined by false accusations.
What have these last 3 years been like for you?
Very, very sad. Very confusing.
Just so traumatic. Like literally our worst nightmare.
Did you have anything to do with the disappearance of your wife?
Absolutely not. It's very hurtful to lose your reputation and your integrity.
Barry filing a $15 million civil suit against prosecutors, the sheriff, and several investigators.
So I know that 15 million is a huge number, but I don't think that, in my mind, that covers any of the damage that's happened to Barry and the girls.
They know he's innocent. And if they would just look for Suzanne outside of where they hypothesize Barry could have possibly buried her remains, they could find her.
His daughters standing by him.
You never had a shred of doubt once you heard the evidence from law enforcement against your dad?
I've never had a shred of doubt.
Not one.
Prosecutors say at the time they believed that they were close to finding Suzanne's body and dropped those charges against Barry, hoping for additional evidence. Authorities tell ABC News they still believe Barry Morphew could be involved in his wife's disappearance and aren't ruling out future charges.
Law enforcement, the DAs, believed that they had their guy, and they believe that there's a mountain of evidence against you. There's just not Suzanne's body.
They're wrong. They've got tunnel vision. And they looked at one person and they've got too much pride to say they're wrong and look somewhere else.
These charges were dropped without prejudice, which means if authorities feel like there's more evidence, they could charge you again. Do you live with fear of that?
Well, I was innocent the first time they arrested me, so I'm sure it's possible. But I don't have anything to worry about. I've done nothing wrong.
Was there any indication before she disappeared that something was amiss?
No.
Did you observe any fights, arguments, disagreements between your mom and your dad that concerned you before?
No.
Prosecutors offering texts which appear to show a strained marriage, Suzanne referring to Barry as Jekyll and Hyde, and just before she disappeared telling Barry, "I'm done." Suzanne confiding in a friend, "Macy and I had a very tough talk yesterday. She's weary of the tension here. She knows how he is toward me and almost begged me to divorce him. He's still pulling Mal in." But Barry and his daughters deny the marriage was in trouble.
We had a wonderful life, wonderful marriage. She was just so loving and giving and such a good mother.
Before her disappearance, Suzanne fighting cancer.
And I know that she was going through chemotherapy for the last couple of years before her disappearance. And I know she was going through some hard things and made some bad decisions.
What kind of bad decisions?
She was really having trouble with the chemotherapy and the drugs.
Investigators also say she was involved with someone else.
When you found out that Suzanne was having an affair, what was your first thought?
My heart was broke. My heart was broken. I didn't believe it.
What's been the hardest part?
Just not having mom.
Not knowing.
It's really difficult, especially because of the lack of closure we have.
And Barry Morphew has moved out of Colorado because he says the public and media scrutiny has been too much on him and his daughters. The Chaffee County Sheriff's Office and DA Linda Stanley both saying they cannot comment on pending litigation or on ongoing investigations. Bottom line here, guys, Suzanne is still missing and no one has been held accountable. So many questions.
Just really intriguing, Ariel. Our thanks to you.
Okay, so what are your thoughts on their second appearance?
I can't with the fake crying.
Oh, it was so bad. It was better in the first one.
Yeah, like they probably have real emotions because especially the daughters, they probably
Yes.
they don't know. But like, ugh,
I
be
just don't
better.
understand how they still think their dad is innocent with all the evidence that has come out against him and based on what they have said.
Yeah. Also, I noticed this in all of the interviews so far. They're always holding hands.
Yes, even when they walk out of the courthouse.
Yeah. Which, okay, that's fine. Maybe some families are into that. My family and I are very close. We don't hold hands like that, for one. But also, this happens a lot. Specifically, Gypsy Rose said this, that when her and Dee Dee would be doing interviews and stuff, if she was about to say something that Dee Dee did not want her to say, she would squeeze her hand.
Oh, I forgot about that. And I noticed that. I thought it was really weird that he was, and the way they held each hand, because if you go back in the first video and look, he is holding one daughter's hand from the underside or from on top with her hand underneath, and then the daughter's hand is up here, and the other one, Barry's hand is on top, like that. So I can see more control over one than the other.
Yeah. Like the way that they're just talking,
but
the tiny bit that they even say, they sound terrified.
They do, and they look terrified.
Yes.
They just, I feel for those girls. They've gone through so much and are probably still going through it.
Yeah.
So a few months after this aired, I'm sure to Barry's surprise, in September of 2023, everyone was shocked but relieved to hear that Suzanne Morphew's remains were discovered 40 miles south of Salida. So Suzanne was finally found. Something we all hoped would happen after almost 3.5 years, but the chances, they were going down. And then something so shocking happened. Well, it didn't happen, actually. No more charges were filed against Barry regarding Suzanne's disappearance. Nothing. Still.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about where Suzanne was found because it's really interesting. I actually found a podcast called Body Bags, and I highly recommend them for deep dives on just remains that have been found because they break it down in a very digestible way. And when I tell you how they found Suzanne, you're not going to believe it.
Oh.
They weren't even looking for Suzanne.
I know about this.
Investigating a completely different case and
that.
stumbled across her remains.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, all I can think of is the attorneys saying if they would just quit looking for where they think Barry buried her, they would find her. I'm sorry, no one knew she was buried until a few months later, ma'am.
Or dead.
Or
like actually dead.
She was assumed dead.
Yeah.
But if Barry's innocent, we're still holding out hope, right?
But they need to stop looking where he buried her.
Look where someone else did. Suzanne was found in a shallow grave in an area that is described as desert-like. So yes, it's Colorado. We have everything except for swamps. I don't think we have swamps.
I don't
That's
have
about
those.
the only kind of terrain we don't have. I really like body bags because in my mind, when I think of a shallow grave, I think of like a mound of dirt, like out in the open, but it's not.
No.
When they get this many years past, it's more of just like an indent in the ground, and you're gonna have some bones or some other things there.
Mm-hmm.
So, and she was scavenged by animals, obviously. So we do not have all of her remains, but we do have a lot of them.
Hold on, didn't he say that in an earlier interview also?
No, honey. What you're thinking of is the Forensic Files episodes he was listening to about her remains being taken out to a deserted area and scavenged by animals.
I totally forgot about those.
Sir, Forensic Files is not a how-to book.
Wow.
Yeah. So I couldn't believe how similar all of the findings of her body were to those podcasts. Like, could that be the smell of alleged premeditation?
Huh.
So Suzanne was ultimately identified by dental records, but they had a feeling it could be her from the beginning because they found her port for her cancer treatment still attached.
Ugh.
And while all of this is absolutely terrible, that just broke me. Like, for them to have known who it was based off of that,
Yeah.
and they just had to wait for dental, it's heartbreaking. Body Bags also talks about how they are now most likely working to identify how she was killed. And it's going to be a challenge for them because it's going to depend on which bones they find. And if he even allegedly harmed her in a way that left evidence.
Yeah.
One of the things with a tranquilizer dart is on humans, the best place to shoot is butt. It's the most muscle, disperses fastest, least chance of hitting bone. So it goes in all the way.
That makes a lot of
So,
sense.
unless if she was strangled, we're not going to know it because the
Yeah.
high up one, it's not going to be anywhere to be found.
Yeah.
So we just have to wait. Suzanne's sister Melinda and the rest of her siblings firmly believe that Barry is responsible for Suzanne's disappearance. They think that something bad may have happened to her on May 9th, the day Suzanne went missing.
Mm-hmm.
Melinda hopes that Mallory and Macy will remember how much their mother loved them and would have done anything for them. Mallory and Macy still stand next to their father and his innocence to this day. And I honestly don't know how. I don't. But on January 16th, 2024, the FBI filed a motion to dismiss the following charges in Barry's lawsuit. So, malicious prosecution and unlawful detention, fabrication of evidence, Frank's claim, conspiracy, failure to intervene, and reckless investigation. Could this be happening because we have made progress on charging Barry again, so these can no longer apply to that lawsuit? Like, is that a good way to think about that?
Absolutely. There's so much more evidence now.
Speaking of there being more evidence now, on April 29th, 2024, so just last month, Suzanne's autopsy was released thanks to KKTV 11 News. These motherfuckers have literally been emailing the coroner.
KKTV?
Yeah, since a week after her remains were found. Every single week. They're all, where's the autopsy report? Where's the autopsy report? Every week, and they finally got it.
Should we buy KKTV a gift basket?
Gift baskets for everyone.
Wait.
Judge Warder! Oh, wait, he's not Chaffee County. Dang it.
Let's bring him down here. He left Colorado anyway.
Oh, okay. So, now, this episode has already been really long. And I really want to go over all the details of this autopsy. So, we are going to break that down on our WTF episode this week. But it's been 4 years since Suzanne's disappearance and now death. And we seem to be stuck in the same place we have been for years trying to get justice for Suzanne.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know if you wanted to say anything else about that.
Oh, I don't know what else to say, man. Like, there's so much that we know, But then there's so much that we don't know. And I don't know.
Yeah, and the autopsy, y'all, it gives us information, but it also gives us questions.
Yes.
And I can't wait to go over it with you guys. So
I'm also very excited. I have no idea. My flabbers have been casted
I'm so
this
glad.
episode.
I have very much kept her away. Like, she sent me the art, her and my husband, within the same 5 minutes, sent me the article of the autopsy being released. And I instantly Snapchat her, do not read it. You're not supposed to know anything yet.
Yeah, I wasn't planning on reading it.
So, let us know what you think in the comments and on our discussion post about Suzanne on Facebook and Instagram at Justice for Podcasts. I want to know what you guys are thinking so far, and
man, I really hope that we can.
Man, I hope we get charges soon.
Yeah.
Against anyone.
We need to get some justice here.
Let us know what you think in the comments or on our discussion posts about Suzanne on Facebook and Instagram. You can find us at Justice for Podcast. So if you enjoyed your time with us today, hit all the follow, like, subscribe buttons so you can get notified for our WTF episode this week with our autopsy, and also notifications on any other updates we do about Suzanne as this case keeps continuing.
Love you.
Okay,
bye.